This is Jordan.
This is Micah.
This is the Macabre Podcast universe.
It's a sequel that exists to
To prove
prove
people wrong that movies are never better than the originals.
and you must solve that riddle. Well, we have to issue a huge warning because we are about to record a cursed podcast.
Oh.
If you listen to this podcast all the way, well, actually, even if you've started it,
If you made it through the intro music.
you have 7 minutes. I mean,
You're alive for 7 more minutes. We call it 7 minutes in hell.
No, you have 7 days and then you will die. We're talking about The Ring, dummies.
By the twisted mind of Gore Verbinski.
Gore Verbinski.
I remember when the trailers were coming out for A Cure for Wellness.
Did he get Twisted Mind building?
Yeah, I think it was Visionary. Oh, I forgot I had makeup on. But I want to say Twist. I don't know.
I'll
but
scrub
it was
through
built
while you're talking.
Like by the Visionary Gore Verbinski, and I was like, who's that?
I know. I remember thinking that as well, and then I
like some visionary, and I've never heard of him. And then I look him up. I'm like, oh, Gore Verbinski, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I'm like, he earns it.
He earns it.
Keep talking though, because I'm gonna try and find that trailer.
Speaking of Gore, full name Gregor, cool.
Yeah,
called Gore. That's like a dream of mine.
A dream of yours to be called Gore.
Isn't it cool? Because he makes dark stuff. His name's Gore. He's cool.
Oh,
we both talked about that while watching this movie. But he directed this movie, The Ring, which is
I can't find
the American remake of Ringu.
Ringu.
The Japanese movie, which is based on Ringu, the novels, which I should have the name of the author pulled up here.
Well, actually, I have it right here.
Great.
It is by Koji Suzuki.
Great.
Yeah. So tell me about your experience with this movie.
I saw this movie like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When it came out, so it came out in 2005. You said
2002.
2002. So I was in what month?
It came out on October 18th, 2002.
We were in second grade.
Yes.
So obviously not watching this movie. And growing up, I was always really scared of this movie. And I must have seen a trailer when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it really scared me. And knowing like, oh, my parents wouldn't let me watch that. If my parents aren't letting me watch it, that means it's bad and scary.
Yeah.
So I always grew up with a stigma against this movie of not against, but just like, it's so scary.
Yeah. This movie, I think I was young enough to know that it existed. I was old enough to know it existed, but young enough to not watch it.
Yeah.
And as listeners will know, it's only recently that I've really filled in a lot of horror gaps.
Yeah.
But this was a movie that was like, oh, that's like messed up.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about it. I just thought, well, I think I knew something I knew something about a phone call. Like you get a phone call and it tells you when you're gonna die. I think it's just what I thought. The Ring.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought it was called that. And then a couple years ago, I think it was a night you were out doing music stuff, so I had the TV to myself finally. And I thought, what the heck? I'll finally watch The Ring.
Yeah.
I was a little scared to watch it. Because I still just had like, this movie must be really twisted and weird. Twisted mind of Gore Verbinski. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then I probably also thought too, like, this movie probably is going to suck.
Yeah.
Early 2000 movie. Don't think I'll
You're
suck.
not a big Naomi Watts fan, so it's
nah.
like, but I'll just fill in the gap. That's how a lot of horror is.
So I was like, no matter what, I was in for a good time.
Yeah.
Because I love filling in these gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was swept away by this movie.
Uh-huh.
Not only is it darn scary, it is just so good.
Yeah.
It is a genuinely good, just like thriller, horror, investigative type story.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think the movie ended and you got home soon after, and I was like buzzing about the movie.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta watch The Ring, you gotta watch The Ring, you gotta watch The Ring.
Because, of course,
so
I had
good.
never seen it.
Yeah.
So then probably the next week I saw it, and I actually have it right here. It was September 16th, 2021 when I first saw it. So you would have seen it just a little bit before that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also like watching it and kind of like, whoa, this is this is crazy good. Like, this feels like a somewhat modern, I guess now it's over 20 years old, but like a modern horror classic, you know? Like, you got to watch The Ring.
Yeah. It's such a good story.
And upon rewatch, I feel the same.
Yeah.
But the first time, so this was a movie, if you'd put a gun to my head, which I wish you wouldn't, and said, "What's it rated, Micah?" Before I saw it, I'd be like, "Oh, that's R." And then after I finished the movie, if you said, "Micah, what's it rated?" I would have been like, "Oh, that's R, definitely." And this is PG-13.
Yeah.
It's a classic power of suggestion.
Oh, yeah. It's got one of the scariest shots I've ever seen. And it's like a split second when they show Amber Tamblyn dead in the closet. Oh, my gosh. It's so scary.
I know. I do feel like if you were in your teens and you went to the theaters with your friends and saw this movie, you would go home and be like, that was freaking scary.
Uh-huh.
Like, you'd probably all you'd pretend for a little bit, like, oh man, that was so not scary. And then as you're getting ready to fall asleep, you'd probably be like, that was pretty scary though, right? Like, right?
Yeah.
And there is a little bit, even as an adult in 2021, like, I watched the movie and I go, I am gonna check my watch in 7 days and see if my heart has exploded. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it's like, who knows? Who knows? You go, because the thing, I think the not secret weapon of this movie, but what I found good about it, especially, is that the movie's setting up that there's this cursed videotape, and when you watch it, I feel like you watch it and you're like, yeah, that's cursed. They really spent some time to make some really disturbing images.
It's great too, because when I first saw it, it's like, they just threw together some random, weird, disturbing images that mean nothing.
Yeah.
And because I was at a point where I didn't think that the movie was going to be so investigative.
Right. I had no idea it was
then,
that.
As the movie's going along, it's like, oh, everything matters in the video.
Yeah.
I didn't think the movie was going to be that smart.
Right. And I already I knew that that's what happened in the movie, but I forgot like the horse element of it. And,
me too.
I thought in the video, like, the only thing was the well.
Yeah.
I didn't realize like every image like sets up another. I'd already forgotten because it'd been, almost 3 years since last time I saw it. So, but yeah, it's that thing. It has that feeling of like, you've probably heard of like Faces of Death. Have you heard of that?
What's that?
It's my understanding of it is it's like a legit like snuff film, like it's like all these videos of people dying. And stuff.
I've heard of stuff like that. I don't remember it being called that, but I have heard, and it's like I have no
interest in watching that. But there's a weird,
you watch people die.
Yeah, there's just what's cool about this movie is it reminds me of being like in high school and hearing about stuff that you're not supposed to even like hear about, and it like replicates that feeling very well. Where and especially the first scene, which we'll of course get into, it gives you that feeling of like when you're at a friend's house and it's like, oh, we're gonna watch, like some Swedish horror movie that no one's ever heard of, kind of a thing. Or maybe it's Saw or something like that, that it's like, we're not supposed to watch it and we have to wait till the parents are asleep. And it like, this movie has that feeling of like cursed image,
the movie Sinister, what the video thing in that? Because that's like he's very much making it feel like a snuff film when he's watching those things.
Those are like all
murders.
Yeah, they're like footage. I think they're footage of the serial killer he's writing a book about, I think.
But he finds them, I thought.
Yeah, maybe he does, yeah.
And is it because he watched them that it's coming after him?
I don't remember.
I've only seen it the once.
That movie was a little too scary.
It was
for
scary,
me.
and I don't remember loving the ending.
The ending was very dark because it was like I think, spoiler alert, I think it was like everybody is killed and then it like lives on, the curse or whatever.
Yeah, and it was like there's nothing you could do about it.
Yeah.
I would watch that again just to see Ethan Hawke, if you know what I mean.
Wink,
wink.
I don't know if I'd watch that again. That movie was scary.
I know that movie really got you. I think that's another PG-13.
No, that is
okay.
R. That is heavy R.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being
There's a lot of blood in that movie. And there's like footage of, like murder, like killing in a way that's
so what?
In a way that's pretty aggressive.
So what?
But yeah, so let's talk about this movie, shall we?
Yeah. One thing I found interesting, I was reading a little bit about the book. I don't know if you came across why or anything, but in the book, the main character is a man, and in this movie, it's Naomi Watts.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to look at the movie. I think the Japanese movie, it might be
I think it's a woman in the
female
Japanese
lead.
one as well.
And also, in the book, the little girl Samara is a woman in the book, and she also has ESP. I can't remember if there was a psychic element to it, but it was a woman who was sexually assaulted and then murdered.
Okay.
Not just some random kid that came out of nowhere and no one knows her history and we don't really know what she does.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious why they would change that too.
Well, I don't really have the answer, but I can tell you a little bit about the adaptation process. Very, very little. I basically, in my research, so the movie is based on Ring by Hiroshi Takahashi, the movie. And it sounds like, I read a little bit about the movie, and it kind of feels like the beginning and ending are pretty similar.
Okay.
But the middle is quite a bit different.
Okay.
And storylines involving the characters having ESP, a volcano, dream logic, and references to Brian and goblins were taken out of this movie.
That's in the other movie?
Yeah.
So what I also saw in the book...
One second.
No.
And Gore, by his estimation, he says that he would say it's 50% to the movie, 50% different.
Cool.
So that
I would watch the Japanese one.
Oh yeah, I'd watch it too.
I also saw in the book that basically you watch the videotape and you basically contract a disease via watching it that'll kill you in 7 days. And I think it's something that grows in your throat and you asphyxiate.
Ooh,
but I think it's personified as this horrific, terrifying thing. So I found that interesting too. Of course, I'm just reading this stuff on Wikipedia, so I've not read the books. There's several of them at this point.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you how many books and movies there are.
Movies?
There's a lot.
Oh, okay.
There are a lot.
Yeah. And reading several of them, I think I thought I don't know if I'm that interested and where it goes.
Yeah.
Well,
it does feel like a one-trick pony. I do not think this is going to be a series that proves us right.
No, I think that there's potential for a cool sequel based on how this one ends.
Yes.
I have no faith that it is good, though.
Yes. Well, and sometimes when you have I would think that already the next movie has to have a defined conclusion because this movie ends with it lives on.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one, it's well, you have to end it then because you already did the it lives on in the previous movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one after that.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, so this movie is directed by Gore Verbinski. This is after Mouse Hunt and The Mexican. And then he makes this movie, and then he will make a series we've covered, The Curse of the Black Pearl, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yep.
So that's where he's at in his career. The screenplay is by Aaron Kruger, who is one of the people who contributed to Top Gun Maverick. But he also wrote a movie called Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction, the Transformers movies. I think he writes a lot. And then he does write on The Ring 2.
Okay.
Which is interesting. That movie is written out as TWO, The Ring 2.
Oh, not the number 2?
Usually it's just the number.
Oh, okay.
Which really makes me think. It'd be cool if it was The Ring TOO. The Ring 2, and a question mark.
What's the next thing?
The cinematography is Bajan Basile, who has done Rock of Ages, Hairspray, Pete's Dragon, Cure for Wellness.
Weird.
Yeah, he's done some of Gore's stuff and a lot of stuff I didn't recognize. I'd imagine because this movie is shot so well.
Yeah.
And it is so cool and so inventive. I'd imagine that he pays the bills with his Hairsprays and Pete's Dragons. Although Pete's Dragon is, I think whoever made that, I think they're a decent filmmaker. I can't remember who, though.
Yeah, who did make that?
I think it's the Green Knight guy.
I think you're right. I'm not even going to look it up. I'm pretty sure that's who it is.
He kind of does a one for me, one for them thing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And then you got the score by Hans Zimmer, which you sort of recognized while we were watching. Always interesting listening to Hans Zimmer pre-Batman Dark
This one
Knight.
had an interstellar feel, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because, he's got a lot of 90s and early 2000s scores that sound much different than like what you consider a Hans Zimmer score to be now. There are 6 novels, and there are
short stories.
Huh?
There are short stories too.
Oh, okay. I'm just pointing out novels. There's also comic books and stuff like that. And there are not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, not 10, but 11 Japanese movies.
And we're doing all of them?
Well, it's funny so Jordan was like, "Hey, let's do The Ring next year." And I thought, okay, cool. We'll watch the Japanese and we'll do the American. And then when I saw there were that many, I'm like, absolutely not. I can't do that.
No.
I just can't do that. Because I'm sure it's like one good one, probably.
Yeah.
The first one.
Like this, yeah.
Yeah. So yes. As far as this movie goes, Gore wanted to do a remake of this after a producer, Walter F. Parks, gave him a VHS of the Japanese movie.
Oh, cool. And it said you will die in...
Yeah, I mean, that feels like the way to go. Watching an international movie, like, on crappy VHS quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was curious about this because the movie takes place in Seattle, but it really doesn't look like Seattle.
It does feel the Pacific Northwest, though.
So they mostly filmed it in Washington, and they did shoot it in Seattle.
Okay.
And then they filmed some of it at the Gorge in Oregon.
Yeah, I saw that. And I think that lighthouse is from Newport, I saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we got some Oregon love in there. I love to see that. Chris Cooper was in this movie and cut from the movie.
Who was he?
He played a child murderer in 2 scenes.
Why do we need that?
And he, quote, unconvincingly claimed to Rachel that he found God in the beginning, and in the end, she gave him the cursed tape. And audiences at test screenings were distracted that an actor they recognized disappears for most of the film.
Wow,
which
Chris
makes sense.
Cooper?
Yeah.
But no people were distracted by Chris Cooper?
That
guy's, I mean, he's great. He's great. And he's in a million things. I just didn't know that he was that recognizable enough that people would be like, what happened to him?
Well, I mean, don't you think, though?
I mean, yeah, but we watch
then,
movies all the time.
Yeah, but you would have seen October Sky by then. You'd be like, what's the dad of October Sky being in one scene in this movie? Oh, yeah, he's at the end, and she's giving him the cursed tape so that the child murderer dies? That's weird.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's...
I mean,
it's
kind
of
a
a
good
lame
choice. I'm
ending.
glad that they didn't keep that story-wise.
They also, which I wish I knew this ahead of time, the cinematographer and Gore worked to have the actors have as little shadows as possible.
I saw that.
So it looked as if they're kind of floating about.
Yeah.
Not like literally floating, but
just
they're
a
like...
little creepy, unsettling, weird.
Yeah. The success of this movie inspired remakes of a bunch of Japanese movies.
Yeah.
The Grudge.
Yep. I've never seen that one, and I really want to watch it.
I want to watch it, too. Dark Water, Shudder, and The Eye. So those are a bunch of movies that it kind of started a little trend here. Because this movie, I forgot to mention, $48 million budget. In the U.S. makes $129, worldwide $248.
Nice.
Huge success.
I saw this, too, because you saw we had the DVD, and you were like, oh, I bet if I click on that, it'll just show the video, and it didn't. Well, if you have this on DVD, or you're able to get it, like from the library like we did, what you do is the cursed video is available as an Easter egg on the DVD. Select look here and press down on your cursor, and then your cursor will disappear. Press enter. This has an interesting feature. Your remote control is disabled. Once the video has started playing, you can't stop it, pause it, fast forward it, or return to the menu.
Oh,
Unless you turn off the TV, you're forced to watch the whole thing. When it's over, the DVD returns to the menu. Then you hear a phone ring twice before you're given control over your remote again.
Dang, that's scary.
And then I also saw this.
I'm scared.
Long before the movie premiered, the video was used as a commercial, and there was no information. It just showed the video.
That's
and
cool.
no like The Ring in theaters.
Dang, that's so cool. I love when they do that kind of... That's like the Smile
like
thing they did
marketing.
last year.
Yeah.
Was it last year? Oh, I guess 2 years
2 years
ago,
ago.
because 2024 is where we are now. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Remember physical media?
No.
And remember how it's probably going to have to come back soon because
Yes.
no one can find anything they want to watch anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jordan.
Yeah.
Hit me with them actors. We got a lot of new people to talk about.
And I think this movie is old enough that around when this movie came out, it helped these actors a lot.
Okay.
So we have Amber Tamblyn, who plays Katie. She's in the beginning. She is in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, as everyone knows.
Yeah,
A
and
series
whenever
that we will cover,
that
someday.
third one comes out, we are
will cover
going
it.
to cover it up to
Because
the theatrical
I'm sure
release.
that the first one is genuinely good. I remember when I just to get this is Traveling Pants moment. I remember when I first saw it.
And can I cut it off? You and your college friends have a traveling
I'm
pants.
currently wearing the pants. They
Boy, this really is a cursed
when
episode.
this movie came out, or whenever I saw it for the first time, I think I was in a phase of like, oh, chick flicks are dumb. But I watched it anyway with my mom and sister, and I was like, okay, that was kind of good.
Yeah, okay,
and
okay.
I bet it holds up.
Okay.
And I have seen the second one, and I don't really remember anything about it.
I bet it sucks. I bet the second one sucks.
But Amber Tamblyn famously featured in Django Unchained.
Yeah. Yeah. I said that. Hey, I just tell the audience that I said that.
Yeah, he said that while we were watching the movie.
Okay, thank you.
She's also the daughter of Russ Tamblyn, who plays Dr. Jacoby in Twin Peaks, a show that Mike and I have unceremoniously stopped watching.
Yeah, so let's update the audience because we made a big deal about how we were committed to watching all of Twin Peaks.
No matter what. And then, you know what? The movie or the show broke us.
It broke us. I don't like it. I don't get it.
What killed me, and we've watched several after. Well,
and
maybe
I
not
do want to just say that Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 2 has a 63 Metascore.
Okay.
And the first movie has a 66. So
I bet it's pretty good.
Probably great then. Yeah.
What did it for me, even though we continued for a little bit longer, was the episode where the stuff that do we spoil?
Yeah, it's an old show
where
and it's
Leland
terrible.
Dies.
Yeah.
And you were texting Jeremy Eden,
Yes.
and Jeremy Eden was like, "Well, once you guys get to this episode, it really falls off."
Yeah, it's like they're
one
floundering.
We just watched. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And there was like 15 episodes left of the original run.
Yeah.
What did it for me is the whole show. I never was hooked yet, but I'm like, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to get it. We found out that there's no like twist. I thought, it's like they're all in purgatory.
They're all in hell.
But it's like, no, it's all mysterious. And we don't know why some of the actors are the worst actors you've ever seen. They just are.
Mm-hmm.
But what did it for me is one of the characters, and I'm not kidding you folks, there's a character who I think she tries to kill herself. And in doing so, she gains supernatural strength.
Mm-hmm.
And she
regresses to being in high school.
Yeah, so she thinks she's in high school. She's like in her 40s. And so she goes to a cheerleader tryout and she throws a football or a cheerleading boy like across the field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens. And I was like, I can't be watching this.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be watching this. Talk about a cursed videotape.
Yeah.
Truly some of the worst. And I mean, just to say, I know Jeremy's probably listening and he's like, but don't you understand it was like breaking for, that time in television history? Maybe it was, but it doesn't hold up at all. And it is like bad production design, bad acting, really bad directing, really bad. And the writing is like awful.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, there's a bunch of people who are way smarter than me that love David Lynch. I think I just don't get him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get him anymore.
Mm-hmm. I've tried.
Yeah.
I do think I've put in the work.
Yeah. And every once in a while you mention we should still watch the show, the Twin
movie.
Peaks, The Return. And I'm like, watch it yourself. I don't care.
Curious. I'll probably never watch it.
But then there's a little part of me that feels nostalgic and wants to finish the show, which is stupid.
I know, that's so weird about it. It's like I'm held hostage.
Yeah.
Rochelle Bella plays Becca, the other girl from the beginning.
Okay.
She is in The Crucible.
Oh, okay.
A Little Princess, ER. It must be The Crucible that I remember her from.
Oh, you mean
Oh,
ER.
Okay. Let me just see. I don't feel like that can't be it, but it must be. DeVay Chase plays Samara, the little girl.
Mhm.
She is in Donnie Darko. Micah didn't remember, and he's in trouble for it.
Sometimes you hold me to this impossible standard.
I just don't know how you couldn't remember. How many times have you seen that movie? 1,000,000?
Twice.
Twice?
Yeah.
I've seen that movie so many times.
I've seen it 2 times.
Wow. That's disappointing for our marriage.
I saw
But
it
she
after high
also-
school for the first time.
DeVay Chase voices Lilo
Okay.
and
But not
Chihiro.
Stitch.
And Chihiro
Chihiro.
from Spirited Away.
Which is?
The girl.
Okay.
And she's in a lot of other stuff.
Okay.
And then David Dorfman plays Aiden, the little boy. They absolutely, this is while watching, I was like, this must have been the casting call for boys between this age and this age. All these boys come to audition. This kid, David Dorfman, walks in the room.
Yeah.
Gore, casting director, whoever, looks at him and says, him.
Yeah. As long as he can deliver one line, he's got the eyes.
He is so haunting.
Yeah.
He is so haunting.
It's one of my favorite like child in a horror movie.
Yes.
And I feel like at the time, this would be 3 years after Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
People probably saw this movie and were like, we're living it up.
I did see that
with-
Sixth Sense, the success of Sixth Sense gave producers like the confidence to make this movie.
This feels like very like you could double feature these movies.
Sure.
Because they're very much like, oh yeah, that's that rated R really scary movie, and they're not rated R.
Yeah.
Power of Suggestion, great filmmakers. But people must have felt like when we were watching like when It came out and Stranger Things, and we're like, we're living in like a golden age of good child actors. After The Ring came out, people were like, an embarrassment of riches with these children actors. This is crazy.
Yeah. He is also in Drillbit Taylor. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 2003 one.
Oh, that's the McConaughey one, I think.
Really?
Oh no, or is that Amityville Horror he's in?
No, that's Ryan Reynolds.
Ah, okay.
And then he's in a few other things, but yeah. And then Martin Henderson plays Noah. He is also in X.
Okay.
Smoking Aces, Torque, which when I saw that I was like, is that the movie they were talking about on
It's gotta be, right?
Springsteen on My Bean? And it is, because I checked.
Yeah.
It does have Adam in it.
What is that movie about? What's the plot? Because
I did look that up too.
Scott's always
a
making
biker
fun of him.
returns from Thailand to set things straight with his girlfriend. Already, what?
Torque.
And this guy leads it.
Okay.
One gang leader wants him for delivery of 2 motorbikes filled with crystal meth, and another gang leader wants him for murdering his brother. That is a lot going on.
What's
in a
the
movie.
Metascore?
41.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's not the worst, but
Got
yeah.
Ice Cube.
Okay. That's
So-
not necessarily good. Not
And-
necessarily
well,
bad.
what about this? It has Dane Cook.
Okay.
He's also in Virgin River. Looks like he stars in it.
Hey, and for folks to know, I have a song that I wrote with Brett Levick that is in Virgin River.
Yep.
It's very quiet on a radio that is not in the shot, and they're outside, and you can't even hear it unless you put on headphones.
But it's there.
But I'm getting royalty checks, so I'm happy about it.
Have we covered Brian Cox?
Yeah, Hannibal,
Hannibal. Okay.
one of our favorite
Then
cannibals.
Naomi Watts.
Yes.
Our leading lady. She is in King Kong.
Oh, that's right.
She's in Birdman. I don't remember being in Birdman.
I don't remember that either, but yeah.
Is she?
So that's okay. Now we're up to 3 movies I like her in.
Mulholland Drive, a movie you and I couldn't finish.
by
David Lynch.
A1 David Lynch.
And that one, I think, is why we went into Twin Peaks with false expectations.
Yeah, because there's a twist in that
Because
one.
there's a twist, and the twist is kind of like what I thought Twin Peaks would have something
Yeah.
like too. And even after you told me the twist of Mulholland Drive, which I'm kind of forgetting, but don't tell me,
Oh, okay.
I thought still not worth it
Yeah.
to get through the trash that I had to watch.
Yeah.
To get to the twist, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you seemed like you were still wanting to watch that someday. I thought so.
I like David Lynch in Steven Spielberg's The Fablemans. That's my favorite work he's ever done.
And
Although
then,
The Elephant Man is very good, actually. Could you imagine how incomprehensible his Dune must be?
no.
Oh my gosh.
And then she's also in Demolition, right? She's the one who's
That That was what kind of made you and I like, do we like Naomi Watts?
What's going on here, Naomi?
But that's a pretty bad movie.
Naomi is in this group of, and this is going to sound like very sexist, but for years, took me years to figure out who they were. Of Nicole Kidman, Naomi Watts, Michelle Williams, and Carey Mulligan, which is a wide range of ages as well. Not kind of.
Yeah. And they all look so different.
They're just all blonde. That's it.
Yeah.
That's my issue.
Watson Kidman, I don't know how you could get them confused.
Yeah.
Or get them confused with the others. But there's something about Mulligan and Williams that I still to this day, I'm like, wait, which one is which? And they don't look alike.
They don't sound alike.
They don't even choose the same type of roles.
No.
And I'm like, which one's in what?
Yeah. So it took me years to parse out who they are.
Yeah. I guess I like her because you only mentioned 2 that I didn't like of Naomi Watts.
Yeah.
So there is a plot to this movie.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through it?
Are you done with your notes?
I'm done with my notes.
Oh, cool.
Are you done with your notes?
Mm-hmm.
This is great. We won't need to make any edits so far.
Mm.
Now, I did want to read this because I think this is cool. And I was kind of picking up on this, but I couldn't quite put it in as good of words. But David Sims has a little letterbox on this. And he gave it 4 stars out of 5. And he said, a movie made to frighten a generation that left their kids in front of the TV to entertain them.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about it. Where does it begin? It begins with Amber Tamblyn.
Mm-hmm.
And she's all, I hate TV.
Mm-hmm. TV kills brain cells.
Yeah. So right away, I mean, take that with what I just said that David Sims said.
During that, her friend is absent-mindedly flipping through channels. And there's nothing on TV.
And
it's
we're
raining
like
outside.
The TV,
they're home
the
alone.
Shot.
And Amber turns it off and is like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch TV. And then they start getting into some gossip.
Yeah.
Where her friend brings up, have you heard about this tape?
Yeah, this cursed
videotape. You watch it. I don't know what's on it, but after you're done watching it, you get a phone call and it tells you when you're gonna die in 7 days, in a week. And it cuts to Amber and she looks terrified. And she's like, how do you know that?
Who told you that?
Yeah, who told you? How did you know that we did that? And you're like, shoot, what's happening? And you find out Amber and a couple other kids, including her secret boyfriend, watched a very strange videotape and received a very strange call at a cabin last week. And they're both laughing it off like, ha ha ha, it's such a dumb joke.
Yeah.
And
I just got to cut you off to say that I love this because this is a very Scream intro to the movie. Mm-hmm. It introduces us to the story and the mechanics and everything. But what's cool is I think when you're watching it, you expect them to talk about it and then be like, I have the tape. Let's watch it. Mm-hmm. But the reveal is Amber's like, I watched it.
No, we find out what happens a week later. That's what we're shown.
And so I just think it's a pretty clever little twist on what you expect from a horror movie at this point. You still get what you expect, but in a different way than you were expecting.
And this beginning part is really stringing you along because for one moment they're terrified, the next moment it's like, oh, it's nothing. The next moment the phone rings and they're terrified. Oh, it's just her mom.
Yeah.
And then the TV goes off and it's like, what? This is strange, but it's raining and stormy outside. She unplugs the TV, it stops. Whatever.
Yeah.
She goes back upstairs and sees that there's a bunch of water pooling around under her door.
Yeah.
Very strange. She doesn't know where her friend is. Opens the door, and then we get the really high pitch, tinnitus sound. And we barely...
Well, it's the white noise of the TV, actually.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's less... all that is lighting up the room as the TV. So it's a very eerie glow.
Yeah.
At 10 p.m. at night.
It's so good.
And it was a millisecond we see her face transform.
Yeah.
And then it's The Ring, I think, right? Does it do the title
I
drop?
don't think it does a title drop,
okay.
but maybe it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is all so great.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get introduced to Aiden, who is the little boy.
Little haunted boy. I said that while watching it. This kid makes me almost believe in past lives. That we all have lived past lives. Because
there's something there.
This kid remembers them.
It's like when you see a dog and it looks like there's a human under the eyes. That's what it looks like. So he expresses himself by art,
Mm-hmm.
and Naomi
Through
Watts. Yes. Is that?
I don't know.
Yeah. And Naomi Watts shows up, and she's like late, and she's like, okay, whatever, sorry. And
He calls her Rachel, but it's his mom.
yeah,
So there's a disconnect between them two. You learn very quickly she's like a workaholic journalist,
right.
single mom.
I mean, and her kid is probably raised by TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So all of this is like working really well with
Doesn't
the
have a
this.
dad. Doesn't know who. I mean, we like basically like he knows who his dad is, but I don't think it was ever told him that
I
this
think he
man
just
is your dad.
assumes. Yeah.
So just a lot of sadness surrounding
Yeah.
this kid. Very transformative time, and his mom is often out working.
Yeah.
And it's his cousin. Amber Tamblyn was his cousin
Yeah.
that he was
But
very close to who died.
this is so great because you're like, okay, first great scene. And then the teacher showing all of these artwork that he drew, and it shows like a dead body, basically.
But yeah, being buried.
Yeah, and she's like, well, Naomi Watts is like, I mean, his cousin died. You said it yourself. He expresses himself through art. And she's like, he died, 2 days ago. And she's like, he drew these 3 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, we're in for it. This is cool. Or he drew them last week.
I feel like he has a little bit of a Shining thing because he has like a little bit more of a connection to Samara after he watches the videotape.
Uh-huh.
That I think is fun.
Yeah, there's like no
no explanation.
There's no really explanation of why he's like tapped into stuff.
Yeah.
And there's not really an explanation of
I like to think of it as he's a child and children are just more open to these things.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and he was raised by TV, so maybe he, and I'm not just talking about Lauren Lapkus's old podcast. So, and here's another point I wanted to make as we're setting the table here and talking about the movie is I'm in no way at all bashing the A24 prestige horror. I really am not with this statement I'm about to make. But I do feel like we're kind of in this little point where now it's like you either get like really nice schlocky horror like your Megans, or you get like something like, the Ari Aster movies and stuff where you have to like really think about it. And they're not necessarily like...
They're existential.
Yeah. And sometimes there's horror movies that come out now and they're not even really horror. They're just like in your mind, which is horror. But, it's like, sometimes you just want a slasher or whatever. And then, of course, slashers are their own thing that are always doing well.
We did get a slasher last year.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's what I mean. They're doing
to watch
well.
It.
Which one are you talking
Thanksgiving.
about? Oh, yes. Yeah. I just checked it out at the library. So, put it on hold, I mean. But what's kind of fun, I like that this movie is just a self-serious horror thriller movie.
Yeah.
And I just feel like this very specific genre is very early 2000s, 90s. And it's not so much happening anymore. Maybe I'm
It just feels like
wrong.
it's hard to get a good concept and with an equally good story.
Yeah.
Like compelling characters and well written. I don't know, it's just hard to do.
Yeah. And we are still suffering from the curse of like movies in like, I don't know, if they made this movie now, they might be tempted to make the characters like, I'm a little more apathetic, but I'll try and figure it out anyway.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of seen movies like this before.
Well, that's your Scream.
Yeah.
That's what that franchise is for.
Which I love. It has its place, but it's kind of like overtaken like all genres, So I just like how self-serious this movie is, and there's not like humor in it.
No.
But not in a way it's not like too dour. It's still very watchable.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just don't know how often we get those anymore.
Yeah.
Black Phone was pretty serious.
Yeah, that's actually a good one.
Yeah. I think what's his name? Scott Derrickson is pretty good at making like serious horror.
Yeah.
That takes itself seriously,
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have that. And then I wrote Mom, I Saw Her Face. I don't remember what that is. That's when they go to the wake.
Yeah, they're at the wake, and Rachel is talking to, I'm assuming, her sister.
Yeah.
Who is her daughter is the one that died. And her mom is like, it just makes no sense. I talked to so many doctors who looked at this situation, and none of them can figure out why her heart actually stopped, why a teenager's heart would stop.
Yeah.
It's unexplainable. And she's like, and I saw her face, like it was more than that, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then it does that, one of the scariest things I've ever seen. And it's like a split second cut to Amber Tamblyn, like fetal position in the closet. Her face is so disfigured and scary looking, and her mouth is so far agape, like she
like
was
it was like
screaming,
kind of ripped open a little bit.
yeah, and her
though.
head just flops down like dead.
Yeah.
And it's just, man, I bet. Well, I wonder if they just made a puppet
Oh,
and just used. I mean, I thought that like an actor
Yeah.
couldn't do that, but
no, I don't think that that's an actor. Doing
yeah,
that.
I think they
it's
like the fact, like I just feel like they made something
yeah,
for that is
That's
so
like-
scary.
yeah, fake head that they just let it plop down.
Yeah.
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 And you know, like with this, and then later when we see it another time with the dad, I think if you hold on that for longer, this movie's rated R.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's a
It's
lot of
really horrific.
there's a lot of stuff in this movie where it's like if that was a 3-second scene instead of a 1-second, like I think this would be rated R. It
Mhm.
really feels like an R movie.
Hmm.
You know?
It's part of it just because it's so serious,
Yeah, and it's so scary.
and there's child death in it.
Right, right. So then Naomi Watts starts like investigating it.
Well, because her sister kind of asks her to,
Yeah.
because she's so good at it. She's a journalist.
Yeah.
And so Rachel goes out where all the teens are hanging out smoking,
Yeah.
and we have a fun, a random. I mean, probably wasn't a cameo in 2002, but Adam
Yeah.
Brody's in the scene.
Yep.
And they're like talking about what happened.
Yeah. What
Because
happened?
they heard about it, they know about it, and Rachel's like, "What are you talking about? What
Yeah.
videotape?"
She's being all
well, not.
cool.
I don't know if you heard about the videotape yet, but that's when you find out that her boyfriend, who was secret, died the same day.
Yeah.
Assuming like people think it was from a suicide. So she goes on to find his obituary, and I think it said that he like fell from a building or something.
Yeah. Something like that. Like it seems like a suicide.
Yeah, and then she finds out the other two kids they were with also died at the same time on the same day.
Yeah.
That's
It's a
not just a
suspect.
coincidence.
So then she develops these photos, and all their faces are blurred out, and
Yeah.
she finds this cabin.
Yeah.
The blurred faces thing is
Really
just a great
freaky.
effect.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And well, and I will talk about it as we go, but this is like the perfect. So this comes out before Curse of the Black Pearl. We had this moment in time, which was the early 2000s, where special effects got so good that most like high budgeted special effects movies look better than high budgeted special effects movies now.
Yep.
You know, your Pirates of the Caribbean, your Lord of the Rings,
Mhm.
they just look way better.
Mhm.
Even in some respects, the Matrix movies.
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, definitely. Like the
Definitely.
Sentinels and stuff.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, you have this movie, and it is like the perfect amount of special effects in this.
Mhm.
I think there was like one wonky shot.
Mhm.
It's when her head is like dissolving. Everything
Who?
else to
What?
me,
Oh,
in the well.
Yeah.
everything else to me, I was like, holds up. Absolutely.
It was so cool.
And so like, I'm just thinking of
This makes a lot of sense that this is the mousetrap guy.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
that I'm thinking about it,
He likes to
I
set up the
love that
trap
movie as
and
a kid
capture us
so
as an
much.
audience. I want to rewatch
but there's
that
just
movie.
a lot of like stunt effects stuff happening.
Yeah, it's
in
been
that
a long
movie.
time. I remember that being one of those movies where anytime it was on
You watch it.
TV,
Yeah.
that was like the only chance we would get. And me and my sister would be like, oh my gosh, Mouse Hunt's on. And we would like, I think I saw that movie over the course of like 5 different viewings and eventually saw like the entire
When
movie.
Talia's old enough, that's when we'll watch it.
Yeah.
And that's my only. That's where I know. Isn't Nathan Lane? Nathan.
Yes,
That,
yes.
That's like what I know him from.
That's, I always think of
I
him
don't know
that.
him from anything else because he was like in the producers or something.
Yeah, and I think he's a big theater guy
Yeah.
and stuff.
And it's like no, it's the guy from Mouse Hunt.
yeah, I know. How weird is that?
Okay, but
But let me just finish my thought.
Yeah.
The later in the movie when Noah, his face is blurring
Mhm.
in the
security
screen.
cam, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well, those are special effects, and it's just so perfect.
Yeah.
And like it just wouldn't be this simple now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
feel like what we're forgetting about it, well, part of it is because we're going to compare it to big budget franchise superhero movies.
Yeah.
None of them are shot in real locations. It's all blue screen. That's the big issue.
Yeah.
Therefore, there's no way to like make an effects interact with an environment or like almost like consider the environment that it was shot in.
Yeah.
To make it look better.
When it's like if you're watching the VFX artists react, you'll see that a lot of times people will actually go out and shoot stuff, and then they start doing special effects, and it's easier to like replace everything than it is to like add an element.
That makes so much sense.
And so then everything looks fake. Where like maybe I don't know, maybe it's like maybe if you did just replace the one thing though, it would look better.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
so we haven't finished it yet, but we've been watching The Creator, and it's a great example of like,
it's incredible. It looks so incredible.
Yeah, and it's like why are movies not looking this good and just shooting them on location? Because this movie looks better than 95% of blockbusters.
Yeah.
So should we check on? Nope. Okay. She's putting herself back to sleep. We're good.
She never woke up.
Oh, she didn't?
Gilmore's drinking water. That's what you're hearing.
I thought I heard coughing. Okay. So, so then she goes to the cabin. Like, pretty immediately.
Love how she watches the tape, that it's just so, not this huge buildup, not this huge tension thing. She just sees this videotape, VHS tape over there sitting with the others, no cover, and is like, that might be it.
Yeah.
Pops it in and watches it.
And this is just, I mean, when I first saw it, and even...
I like it because you can't prepare yourself for it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I and both times, but especially the first time, I'm like, oh, they're just showing us the tape, and they're showing it to us this early in the movie, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like that's the catalyst for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But I thought that this would be like the end of the movie. You watch the tape or something like that, or like you never see the tape or something. So I was kind of shocked to see it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Jaws moment. It's like, wow, they're just gonna show us the monster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they have to.
Yeah.
Story-wise.
No, it totally works.
So
and
we see the tape as a bunch of weird, disturbing, some not disturbing, but just because of how it is, it's all disturbing images that seemingly are random and make no sense and don't go together, but are very unsettling.
Yeah.
And then after she watches it, the phone rings and a voice says 7 days.
Yeah.
You'll die in 7 days.
Okay, we're off to the races. Another thing I want to mention that's maybe silly, and you might be like, Micah, you're really digging in the weeds. But just another thing about, I think, separating good filmmakers from bad ones and screenwriters is like when she goes to the hotel, there's a guy there, and he's practicing a magic trick. And it's little details like that make movies like so much better than other movies. Because it's like, I think most movies would just have a guy at the hotel. But instead, you give this guy a little bit of meat, and you just have like a little memorable character in it. It's like what the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies do so well. And just take note of that if you're randomly a filmmaker that's listening to our podcast. So then the movie's like, it's so awesome. It's like Thursday, day 1.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So during Thursday, day 1, the kid goes to school on his own. So we see this pattern of like parental neglect, really. And then
that's when he runs into Noah on the street.
Yep.
And they just both look at each other, don't say a word, and keep going. Which is the kid's like, "That's my dad." And then Noah. So Rachel had called Noah.
Yeah.
And she's like, explains everything. Is this when he watches this? He watches the tape.
Yeah, and I love that she walks outside and looks at the high rise, and she sees just everybody who's just like watching TV. And she just doesn't know what to think or to express, and the whole world is just watching TV.
She's just really freaked out.
Yeah. And so, and then I think
he gets the phone call, but he doesn't answer it. She doesn't pick up.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's still going to happen,
Right. And then no, he doesn't watch the episode yet, does he?
What episode?
The episode.
As a kid? No,
that's later.
Yeah.
Okay.
But basically, so then her and Noah go back to his place, I think. And he's trying they're trying to just like investigate the tape because there's just some weird stuff on it.
Yeah.
And there's like one scene where
And he's like, this would be awesome for a Nine Inch Nails music video.
There's one clip where like it looks like there's something almost about to come into view, but it gets cut off by the next thing.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out a way to like see more of that view, all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that's when his assistant / boo shows up, and
from NCIS, I think. Go ahead.
Okay. He starts explaining it to her, and Rachel's like, "Oh no, I'm going and I'm taking the tape with me." She doesn't want anyone else to see it.
Yeah.
So she just leaves abruptly. Also, it's awkward.
Right. And he also mentions that there's no control track on the videotape, so it's like being born without fingerprints.
So that means they don't know what kind of tape it was shot, or what kind of camera it was shot on?
I think they don't have
like
a way to like trace where it came from.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean something like that. Gobbledygook, that's actually real, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then she goes outside and she walks under a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds her of the video.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she goes and she visits Becca at the hospital.
Right. So that's Amber's friend from the beginning. When this happened, this person has been institutionalized ever since then. And she looks bad. And it's a nice touch that she's walking through the hallways and this person has a screen in front of her so that she can't look at screens. Because
she's like too scared.
They scare her.
Yeah.
So then Rachel's talking to her and what does she ask her?
I don't remember. I think she's just like, where's Rachel? Where is she?
But
I don't remember.
I think she's just, obviously, I'm dying.
Uh-oh. Don't die.
Getting more information from her, and basically she tells her, like, you don't have much time left. You're going to die in some odd days. Very cryptic, very spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then does she make a copy?
Yes, because she goes to like the Seattle Times like basement and she's like checking out the video.
So she makes a copy of it.
And this is when the fly happens.
No.
Oh,
that's when she's printing out pictures.
Oh, that's what I have next. It's the fly.
It's when she's printing out pictures though.
Okay, then I guess she doesn't make a copy yet.
These are different things though, I'm thinking.
Okay, but whatever. The fly happens, and at some point she copies the tape.
Okay.
I didn't like clock that she copied the tape for some reason. So,
okay. Well, she did, Micah.
Well, yeah, it's pretty crucial to the plot. Tell me about the fly. This is like your favorite scene.
So, it's crazy. It looks so freaking good. She's not copying the tape. She's in another area where she can manipulate and control the viewing of the tape better, so that she's trying to get that image that's almost coming into view, but the keys getting cut off. And this machine's allowing her to get it and print it, which is where she finds the lighthouse.
Right.
While it's happening, though, there's a fly that is in the video, and she pauses the video, and she says the fly is still moving.
Yeah.
And instincts, I guess, drive her to reach up and grab the fly. So what is the significance of that, though?
Oh, it looks really cool.
Does it kind of add to like the paranormal, supernatural element of the tape?
I mean, the tape can interact with the real world, and it is like truly a haunted tape.
Yeah, it's it's alive. I guess is maybe kind of what it's illustrating.
Yeah,
it looks so good.
It looks great.
Yeah,
it's like a simple special effect instead of like the TV exploding into a huge thing and like eating her or something like that.
And it's again interacting with the environment. So yeah, it's a tiny little fly, but it's never in focus. So you're never seeing how wonky it would look, especially for 2002.
And it's great because when she grabs it, a fly is so small that an actor can just smush their fingers together and it'll look normal.
It doesn't look like there's floating air between their fingers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it looks great, and then she just has a bloody nose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which means she's on something.
Yeah.
And I think around this time is when her son watches the tape.
Yeah, well, but before that, she discovers she starts reading about Anna Morgan.
Okay.
And the horse farm, and then she pulls a big, long wire out of her mouth that has like an electrode on the back.
I think it's her hair, the girl's hair.
Okay, but it does have an electro.
It does.
thing,
It does.
which I couldn't recognize what it was until later in the movie when they showed the experimental stuff.
Yep. So Anna Morgan seems to be some troubled woman that lived on this island, but she was a horse person. But all of her horses died of a virus, or did they commit suicide?
I think a little of both.
A little of both.
Yeah, there
like
was
the
like
horses
some sort
were
of
driven
plague.
crazy.
Yeah,
on this island.
yeah,
And that's kind of all we know right now.
yeah.
But she finds out where this lighthouse is, which is on this island, and and is like, I guess that's where I got to go next.
Yeah.
But during that time,
Then Aiden watches the video.
Aiden watches the video. So
and
now
she comes out great, where she's like, "What?"
Yeah, great reaction.
And she pulls it out and throws it under the couch.
Mhm.
And dang, so good. And as a viewer, you're just like, no, he watched the tape. He was supposed to just be an auxiliary character. Now he's gonna die.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
she is needs to leave him with her sister for a couple days so she can continue investigating with Noah.
Yeah.
And I like the moment shared between Noah and Aiden in the car.
Yeah.
Aiden is drawing again, and then Noah's basically like, you know, I'm your dad, but
Yeah.
we were so young, and he's like, I don't care that you're my dad. I don't care that you want to be part of my life. And Noah says something like, it's just that my dad was just not a good example, and I didn't want to repeat that. And it's like, dude, you're doing it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Classic bad dad stuff.
yeah, just continuing a cycle.
Yeah. But he says something like, would you like it if I was around more? And Aiden doesn't really answer, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
again, bad parents.
Yep. So she goes to the island.
Yeah.
While on the ferry,
Yeah.
she tries petting a horse. Horse goes wild.
Busts out of the trailer.
Horse jump ship.
Horse chop,
blood.
chop.
Yeah.
Engine of ship.
Yeah.
And most of the horse stuff looked good.
Yeah, I
too.
thought so. A little wonky, but also it's like, I think they'll look kind of wonky today.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Believe me. Unless it's by SS Rajmaji.
I would need that CGI stamp in the corner of the screen.
If you don't know what we're talking about, watch the Bahubali movies, because they put in they write in the corner like this animal is CGI.
Mhm.
And they don't even look that realistic.
They look very bad.
And it's just funny because it's like,
But the movie's great.
we don't
Both of
want
them.
people to think that this is real. That's how
Yeah.
close to reality is. And you're like, you're not fooling anybody. But those movies rock. Only 2 of them, though. So there's the horse death. And then there's a scene transition where it flashes the ring.
Yeah.
In
To which
between.
Micah said it was like a Tyler Durden thing.
Yeah. And we had to rewind because you missed it.
I did.
But it was like, oh my gosh, the movie. See, this is a cursed movie. You know what I mean? It's like enveloping you and making you like, should I even be watching this movie? Which any great horror movie should make you kind of question whether you should
I
be
handle
watching
this?
it.
Yeah.
You know, any like really scary one. So you're questioning that while Naomi Watts meets Brian Cox.
So first time I saw this movie, I had no idea he was in it,
Yeah,
and I
me too.
was shocked. And I was very much enjoying the movie at this point. But once we got there, I thought, oh, now we're in it. Now we're in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, you reporters, you stink. Get away from me. You know, that's
Sounds exactly
famously
like
how
that.
Brian Cox talks.
Yeah.
It's the Cox talks.
It's a Cox Talks hour.
And I would do my Succession impression, but I'm too scared to swear on the podcast.
To drop the Effie.
Yeah. That's private.
That's private amongst friends.
Yeah. And sometimes I don't even actually pronounce it because of the way he says it in the show sometimes. You just go, you just kind of say it without even saying it. It's like getting away with swearing.
Performance of a lifetime.
Yeah.
From an amazing career.
It is so nuts anytime an actor is that old and they do something that's like, oh, this will be what you're remembered for.
Yeah, I know.
I was thinking about it made me think of Christopher Lee.
Oh, for Lord of the
Saruman
Rings
and
Star Wars.
and Count Dooku. It's
Yeah.
like that's what you'll be remembered
Count Dookie?
as. Mike just threw his podcast across his Apple phone across the lake. He's probably swimming right now. Yeah, I wonder how, there's other actors like that
This
too.
guy was married to Anna Morgan.
Yeah.
And he is very aloof, does not want to talk about any of it. While she's investigating this, Noah is at the hospital where Anna Morgan was kept.
Yeah.
And kind of at the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, they both separately but simultaneously discover that she had a daughter. Right?
Yeah, so
Anna Morgan.
do you mind this? So this scene is the next 20 minutes are all them investigating, piecing it together.
Yeah. This is like the part, I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon is a way better movie. So don't think I'm comparing the both and they're both equally great. But this is like the part in Killers of the Flower Moon when the FBI show up over 2 hours in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, the movie's starting. Let's go.
Could we just simplify this whole section and talk about it chronologically, what happened to the girl? Because I'm still a little confused.
Yeah. So
you have them on this horse ranch, the
Brian
Morgans.
Cox and Anna Morgan. Well, Anna Morgan wanted a kid.
Okay.
And they could not conceive.
Yeah.
No matter what. And from what it sounds like, one winter they left the island, and by the time they came back, they had a child with them. And
so it's that mysterious.
I believe so. Because that's how the doctor kind of said it.
Yeah.
They didn't say, and I don't even think on that document that we were given that information. So I'm assuming they brought back a child, not a baby.
Okay.
Because I'm curious how long they even had the child.
Yeah.
I almost feel like they brought back this child from wherever, whatever ends of the earth they went to get it.
Yeah.
And over the next year, this all happened.
Okay.
Like that fast.
Yeah.
That's my assumption.
I do wonder, as much as it'll probably be bad, I there is part of me that's there is room in a sequel to explore more of this.
I know, because I wonder
where'd she come from. Maybe that's part of the
I wonder,
curse.
Okay, let's say that she was conceived by Anna Morgan. How and why is she this kind of personification of evil?
Yeah.
What went into that? So what kind of thing? What weird potential rituals happened that went into that baby?
Yeah.
Or they adopted this child from some orphanage, from some probably Eastern European country, because it's creepy over there. And
whoa, you can't say that.
Okay. And they had no idea what kind of kid they were adopting. They had no history on her. So we don't know where
and then
she
they
came
should have
from.
known, because on the adoption certificate it said Transylvania, dummies. That's Eastern European.
Yeah.
I just covered your butt.
Okay.
I know there's a little room there, because so we don't ever have an explanation.
And I don't think they need to say it in the movie. I think it's great how it is.
Yeah,
I love not knowing.
No. I'm just theorizing. They don't explain why she's evil, right?
No. And I agree that in a sequel, this is where it could go.
Yeah.
Where whoever is the character that picks it up in the sequel.
I think Naomi Watts is in the sequel.
Okay. That's interesting. But further on going, basically furthering the investigation. She investigated enough that lifted the curse from her.
Yeah.
Although she lifted the curse from her way earlier and just didn't know it. But just continuing her investigation to see, it would logically lead her to the child. Who is this kid?
Right. We do have the same 3 actors in the next one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm interested. There's a chance.
Yeah.
But it's not gore.
It's not gore. Oh yeah, here's what's weird. Here, I forgot. This is what's really weird about this movie. Let me see. And I think I said his name incorrectly before. The director of the Japanese Ringo directs The Ring 2.
Ringu.
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, and I mispronounced his name earlier. I think I wrote down the wrong name because it's way different. His name is Hideo Nakata. I think I said Suzuki.
You did.
Oh, maybe that was the novelist.
Maybe it was.
Maybe I didn't say. So, Hideo Nakata goes on and writes and directs the second movie. And by then, I think he had
already directed the sequel of the Japanese version?
He directed Ring 2. Isn't that weird?
That's fascinating. And that's why we do the podcast.
Okay, now I'm actually pretty excited to watch this movie.
I hope it's a sleeper, a good one.
Yeah. Oh, and Dark Water, a movie we just talked about that they remade because this movie is another movie he directed.
What's Dark Water?
I don't know, but remember I listed because of this movie they remade The Grudge and they remade other American movies.
Oh.
This is another one of those. Dark Water is a mother and her 6-year-old daughter move into a creepy apartment whose every surface is permeated by water.
Okay. Who's in
No-
it?
Um,
You don't need to tell me.
Hitomo Kuroki,
Oh,
Ryo
I mean the
Kana.
American version.
You got Jennifer Connelly, John C. Reilly, Tim Roth, Pete Postlethwaite.
When are we watching that one?
I don't know. It doesn't look very
It's a
good.
pretty interesting cast, though.
5.6, 52 Metascore.
Oh, okay.
Eh.
I like seeing John C.
Yeah. But sometimes he's not the right fit. But often he is. Okay, I'm pretty excited to watch the next one. And the scores aren't terrible. They're not as high as The Ring, but they're not as low as what I just mentioned. It's like in the 6s and I think 50 Metascores.
Hey, just give me a good concept then.
Yeah.
That's the bar.
Okay. Very weird though. Okay.
So, when Noah is looking through the files of this child.
Oh, yeah, we never finished talking about how it went through. Remember we were going to try and just go through what happened?
Oh, to the girl?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I was a little unclear on how this worked. Those pictures that he had that looked like X-rays.
Yeah.
Did she just make them?
That's what I didn't get that
her brain?
either.
Like they took a picture, like her brain, like because of the electrodes, her brain was hooked up to something.
I don't know, because
And she
in the
made
tape,
pictures?
the psychiatrist was like, "How did you make these?" or something like that, and I was like,
Okay,
"Excuse
I was
me."
a little confused by that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should know what it is.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't. Anyway, girl is really weird. Comes to the island. A lot of bad things just start happening because that doctor makes it sound like, we live on an island. One person gets a cold, every person gets the cold.
Yeah.
So she's like, all I know is they brought back this girl and things were bad for a
Yeah, there
while.
was like some evil happening.
Yeah.
So they like house her
Including
up in the
all
barn.
of the horses dying.
Yeah.
All of them.
They-
So Brian Cox puts her up in the barn.
Which is where the ladder comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Big ladder.
Mhm.
Good set design.
Yeah.
And then from there they discover the tree,
A red tree burned into the wall.
and the tree is near where the well is at.
Rachel remembers that tree from the motel
Yeah.
cabins.
Yeah.
So when they determined that something was wrong with the girl, they brought her back to the mainland, which is where she was in the hospital. That's why she was
Right.
back in that area where the well was. And then we
Yes.
go to the scene where she's at the well and her mom walks up behind her and is like, I only
Pushes
ever
her
wanted
in.
you,
Oh.
but then puts a plastic bag over her head and throws her into the well.
See,
So-
even that, it's like, this is PG-13?
I know.
Crazy.
Pretty nuts. And then seals the well.
seals
Or
the well.
covers it.
And so all of that happens. So that is like the curse, right? Of the videotape.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, we were kind of trying to go through it in a way where we were just kind of.
That's just what happened to the girl.
They're-
The girl is what makes made the curse because of what happened to her.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I mean to say is like they're investigating that in this whole back half of the movie, and we're just kind of like, this is what happened,
Yes.
because it's a little complicated.
Yeah, because so Naomi or Rachel goes to that doctor that gives her information, and then she goes back to Brian Cox,
Yeah.
and that's where she learns a little bit more information
See, this is when she sees the video.
of the interview. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I really like both times on this scene, he comes in and you're like, uh-oh, he's going to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's going to attempt to kill her. And he's just carrying around all these electrical cords.
He does hit her.
He does. Oh, yeah, he does hit her, too. And you're just like, this is no good. It's Brian Cox. This guy is one of our favorite cannibals, Hannibal Lecter.
And then he does. So, yeah, they're upstairs, everything.
yeah.
And he's like, you don't understand. She never sleeps, which they do. She does see that in the video. The
Uh-huh.
girl never sleeps, which it's like, they never explain that either.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But then he goes upstairs and she's like following him. And
Trying to like asking him questions.
But again, I just like how you think. I mean, at least me, maybe you thought differently, but both times I'm like, this guy's going to get her.
Mhm.
She needs to get away from this guy.
Mhm.
And then he just goes into a bathtub. He's got all this
Well, she
analog.
sees what he's doing, and that's why she's like screaming at him, like, tell me more. And he's like, we were never supposed to have a kid.
Yeah.
And so part of me is like, is his like never wanting a kid, is that part of why this girl was so evil?
Yeah.
and then she was murdered. I don't know.
Maybe we'll find out in that next one.
Yeah.
Maybe. But and then
But she sees that he's going to kill himself.
he puts a bridle in his mouth and electrocutes himself.
Yeah.
It is like a gnarly suicide.
It is.
And again, this movie's rated PG-13?
Yeah.
This is some edgy stuff. So he kills himself. And
Noah shows up
yeah.
right when that happens.
And that's when they find the ladder to Samara, her
Yes.
little treehouse thing. And they find the tree, and then they go back to the house.
And this is the
or
last
the cabin,
day.
I mean. Yeah, day 7.
They're back in the same cabin. They're at a loss.
Yeah.
So Rachel's like, you gotta just, like, time is up for me. You have to just keep figuring this out for Aiden. Otherwise, he will die.
Yeah.
So she's like, promise me that. And he's like, no, we're gonna figure this out. They're both freaking out. And then they notice there's something under the floor.
Yep.
Rip it up. There's a well under the floor.
Yeah. And then they start like uncovering it. They pull off the seal and they can't see how deep it is. The TV turns on, slides, and hits Naomi into the well.
Really cool, fun effect when the nails are being pushed out of the floorboards.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of like just great practical stuff in addition to very light CGI.
Yeah.
And what's cool is, so I had forgotten the twist of this movie.
Me too.
And so when this is happening, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. This is like Insidious 2 when you find out like all the noises in the houses are actually trying to help.
Yeah.
And so like I'm watching it and I'm thinking, oh, this TV, yes, it pushes her into the well, but it's actually trying to free her is what I'm thinking. So it's actually like good that she's getting pushed into the well.
Yeah.
We'll find out later it's not good because she will unleash.
She unleashes the evil.
Yeah. So she gets pushed into the well. And
well, you don't even know. We'll talk about it later. But
Okay.
yeah, she's in the well. She's realizing there's all these claw marks in here. She finds a fingernail.
very nice, creepy stuff. I love that.
And then she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is where Samara was thrown and died."
Yeah.
So now she's like looking in the water for a body.
Yeah.
And then the body like floats up to her. I like that it's like the actor that she's holding.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That she sees her as she was.
Yeah.
You know, I like that touch. It's nice. And it's like,
I mean, this is a guy who's good with skeletons. We'll find out, I think, the year after this movie.
But it's sweet, it's beautiful, it's justice,
Yeah. So you're
she
feeling like
finds
it's
her,
good.
They get the police, they get her out of there. They're going to give her a proper burial.
Yeah.
This is what she's wanted the whole time.
I know.
They've lifted this curse that's been on. Yeah, this weird curse.
Yeah, and now we see like the family's reestablished.
Mhm.
Like, and it looks like Noah and Naomi are gonna be like together.
Yeah, they're going to figure out parenting and their relationship. She's
And-
back with Aiden.
Yeah, it's like fine. She's gonna take care of her son again.
Yeah. And so she wakes up the next
Yeah.
morning, sunny day in Seattle.
Yeah.
So peaceful.
1 of 45 every 45 days is sunny there.
Is that a real thing?
No, I'm just because it's always
okay.
raining there.
Yeah. And she's like, we did it. We found her. She's going to have a proper burial. We're all safe. And her son says, you let her out?
You
or
weren't
something?
supposed to help her.
Yeah.
And he looks so scared.
So good.
It's so good. And that's when you're like, oh dang, no.
Yeah.
And then
Especially because she's been talking to him. Or you've known that there's some kind of communication between him and Samara.
that
It's like, shouldn't he be happy about this?
yeah.
Like he's kind of like, we have to help her. And it's like, no, even this child is like, no, you can't. And I think he even tells her like she never sleeps.
Also, we should mention, if anyone didn't watch the movie, the ring is the ring around the well as it's being closed.
Mm-hmm.
So that all happens, and then she's like, oh no, I need to go talk to Noah right away.
Meanwhile,
and then it shows Noah's, and this is the money shot of this movie. He is at his cool
Loft.
apartment.
cool single guy.
Yeah.
Apartment.
And the TV flickers on, and he's like, oh no. And then you see the well. Oh no. And then you see Samara. Oh no. She starts walking toward the TV. And then she proceeds.
Is she walking backwards?
She comes out of the well, but her hair like comes out first. So the actor, they shot it with her going backward.
Sure.
Or I mean, she's like, walking backward. So then when they play it in backward, it looks like she's walking forward. Very weird.
Oh, that's why.
That's how they're doing that.
Okay.
Like this sequence is like a little more practical than you would maybe even think.
The VFX artist reacts is a good.
Yeah.
To if you were curious how they did it.
Yeah. But then she proceeds to crawl out of the TV in one of the coolest visual effects ever.
Yeah.
And it's still like in reverse.
Yeah.
So they're having the actor like crawl backward. And then on top of all that, a great subtle touch. Well, not subtle, it's very obvious. She is flickering like a TV in the regular room with everyone else. Mm-hmm. I still don't really understand how it could look that good in 2002. Mm-hmm. And then she kills Noah.
By looking at him.
Insane.
Like him beholding her, you know?
It is so freaking cool, and that's how I want to go.
Okay.
Then Naomi shows up, sees him dead, and she is like, oh no, what are we going to do? My son's now going to die.
It's interesting that she
but
sees
her
that
day has passed.
His assistant like goes up and she doesn't do anything to stop her or whatever. I think it's also part of like to protect, like she shouldn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Because if she does, she'll
be a suspect, I think.
No, well, that's actually a good point for that. But I'm just thinking she's doing it to protect that girl so that it's like, why did this happen to him? This is why. Show me the tape. Blah,
it's
blah,
probably
blah.
more of that, actually.
But it's also probably that too.
And then she comes back and she's like, how come it didn't happen to me? Because he died on his 7th day, and the 7th day for Aiden is coming right up. She destroys
the tape in the fire and is screaming that. And then notices under the couch the copy that she made.
And then she makes Aiden make a copy. Mm-hmm. She's like, that's why it didn't happen. It had nothing to do with the burial, which is such a cool thing because you think it does have to do with that.
And what did her son, he asked her something. He
says, it's going to keep going, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And that's it.
That's the movie.
That's The Ring.
I think it should have ended with a big punk, because I feel like this was the time when horror movies ended with a big punchy punk song.
Don't wanna be an American idiot. Do.
That one, or maybe any other one.
Yeah. I know what you mean. You want that like...
It was just a time
with
period.
Your head on the ground and your feet on the air.
No, I mean like heavier.
Heavier, okay.
Like really
heavier
intense.
Than the Pixies? No, I know what you mean, where it's like...
something like that.
Get into my Dragula.
What's that?
That's Rob Zombie. You know, a Rob Zombie song.
We don't need that.
I keep on purposely, or maybe it's like Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Chop Suey by System of a Down.
Yeah, that would be great. I just a movie that came out. Let's see when this movie came out.
2002.
No, not this one.
Oh, okay. Like
House of Wax came out in 2005, and I may or may not have watched the whole movie knowing that there was a My Chemical Romance song in it.
Yeah, sure.
And it was the credits rolled, intense punk song, and it was like, that felt good. That movie's not good, but that felt good.
Yeah.
And then
Who directed that movie? Since you got it up.
Let's see.
Come on. Don't fail me now. Don't fail me now, Jordan.
That was directed by John Colet Sarah.
Okay, I don't know.
Or Huame, probably.
Okay, I don't know.
But also, the first time I saw Watchmen, I may or may not have watched it only because I knew there was a My Chemical Romance song in it. Again, only to be half played in the credits. Although I was watching it on TV, and as soon as the credits start rolling, they
do that like speed up thing. Yeah. That's so funny.
So yeah.
I'm a little bit nostalgic for that feeling of when the credits go really fast and a movie starts immediately, and then in the corner there's just the credits rolling.
Uh-huh.
I'm a little nostalgic for that. When we watched Halloween 4 last year, when it ended, like I think Halloween 5 was starting right afterward, and it did that, and I was like, oh yeah, that feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful movie, very scary. And I now am excited to watch The Ring 2.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not excited to watch Rings. But, yeah, so...
They should have made 5, and then the 5th one would have been a Christmas one. 5 golden rings.
I was thinking it'd be like Thumb Ring. I liked yours better. I just thought that's where you were going with it. So guess what, folks? If you are not a patron, you're out of your mind. Because over on Patreon, we're doing MPU the Legacy, MPU the Sequel Legacy, where we're doing Legacy sequels. And this month, next Wednesday, we do Tron Legacy. We did Tron last month, doing Tron Legacy. And then we have a bunch of others. So sign up for that. And then, yeah, give us a rating on Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Share it with a friend.
Share it with a friend. If you don't do it within 7 days, you die.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, you're right, Jordan, because we did say this is the Cursed Podcast. So if you've made it this far, if you haven't, you're going to die. If you have made it this far, you have to share this with someone or else you will die in 7 days.
I don't make up the rules. That's what they are.
That's what they have in the novel, I'm sure. So, cursed novel, cursed
podcast.
Yeah, so that's your fault.
You should put in a ringing phone.
Oh, good idea. Hello?